Hello, this is Morgan Teal, and this is my summary of Chapter 4. I will be using the Minnesota textbook because the PDF would not allow me to open it, but I could open the Minnesota Chapter 4, so I used that. So Chapter 4 talked about sensory and perception. Sensory is how your body takes in all the senses from around you and how it receives them and transfers your perception of the world. So an example would be like food, like you taste it, you smell it, you can touch it, and that helps shape what you're gonna think of it. So what I found interesting was that birds are able to see ultraviolet light. So a bird that looks black to us with a hint of blue could look purple, yellow, green to other birds. And how humans, we think that we see all these different colors because we see 7 million different colors the human eye is capable of seeing, but there's actually a world of color that we do not even know exists. Cats are able to maneuver in the dark because their whiskers are very sensitive to touch, so they could be walking and just slightly touch something and they could feel it, where we actually have to hit something or like hard touch something to feel the sensation of that something is there. And dogs have sensitive hearing, so that one I feel like is more known and more common, but dogs can hear higher sounds, pitch sounds than we can. So something that is interesting are that there's more colors than the human eye can even handle to see, which I think is weird because we see our whole world and we're like, this is all there is to it, but there's actually so much more to it. And then dogs can hear sounds, so sounds that we don't even hear going on, there's actually a million more sounds that are happening. And this also, I feel like, is more known because older people who have issues hearing, they won't hear a loud noise, but younger people will be like, oh, do you hear that noise? An older person won't hear the noise. Something that is also interesting is that the human eye only sees 3 colors, which are red, green, and blue, the 3 primary colors, and all the other colors that we are capable of seeing are made up of those different colors. Though you might be wondering, like, how do you get yellow out of red, green, and blue? Well, each color will have a different hue on it, and hue is the intensity of the color. So some colors could have more red and then just some green, or could have a lot of green and just some blue. And it's just the wavelengths that our eyes see the color in. So a color that is like purple will probably have a lot more blue and red than green. The second topic is perception, and perception is the process of interpreting and organizing the information that we are given. So perception is basically how we see the world. So if we didn't have perception, we would just see stuff and it would make no sense. But our mind, we don't even think to do it, but our mind just puts it all together and helps us understand what's going on. So an example of perception is, so when you are watching a movie, you have the sounds, the music, the colors, the flashes, that all brings it together in your head, and that is how we see it. So perception is, again, all of our senses working together to give us the daily experience that we have every day. So perception comes in everything. So it'll be in food, in movies, how we see how other people express themselves. So I think, and then one thing that is interesting for perception, I think, is selective hearing. And selective hearing is you're having a conversation with somebody and you think that you're all dialed in, but actually your brain is off in the distance working and listening. So somebody could say something that interests you, or they could say your name and you'll be like, what? And you didn't even think you were listening, but you hear it. So that is what selective listening is. And I think that's just very interesting because it's always going on and you don't actually have any conscious thought of doing it. For the last thing that we had the option to talk about, it was the list of all the links, and I chose to choose the TED Talk by Amy Cuddy, who is a social psychologist, and her TED Talk was on nonverbals. And what I found interesting was the power poses mostly, and I thought it was very interesting how she gave the example of when even a human who is blind or can see, when they just feel powerful, they raise their hands up in the air and then they have this slight bend in their chin, and it's just human nature. Because how she used the example of a blind person who also feels joy or empowerment in the moment will do the same thing, and they've never seen anybody do that pose. And so what I think, power poses are important and they make you feel more comfortable, confident, and passionate about what you are doing. And so I chose this power pose topic because my freshman year I was on the volleyball team, and our coach actually, I think he watched this TED Talk, and so whenever the other team would call a timeout, he would make us all come back to the bench with our power pose, and we all had to have our hands up. And so then he was like, it makes you feel more confident. And he also would stress, fake it till you feel it. So he'd be like, put your hands up until you feel confident. And so I could relate to that one because I've actually had to do them. And I agree with those. The power poses do make you feel more confident, and I do them to this day. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years. In every team for volleyball that I've been on, I always incorporate that into our team and try to get everybody to do it. Thank you.